Welcome back, my friends, to another episode on a mother's journey to holistic health and healing. So happy we're here for another beautiful episode. Been looking forward to this one and excited. It's especially, I feel, meaningful because we are joined with a guest who was with us exactly almost a year ago, and she was in a totally different space then and in a totally different space now. And I also wanted to bring her on so we can talk and unpack that and talk about what's new and what's changed and shifted for her since since she was last here. So it moved me a lot, that episode. It was a very emotional one. She shared about her healing journey, surviving, childhood trauma, navigating grief and infertility, finding healing through somatic work, through her spiritual practices, and also plant medicine assisted therapy. So we got into that. That was episode 33. If you want to go back and check that one out. Her name is Sonia. And at the time when we recorded, she was pregnant, which was exciting because she was struggling to get pregnant. And now she returns as a mom in an entirely new chapter, which is exciting to hear, to witness, to see all the blessings where she is right now. And also to see and hear and learn about how her work has shifted and evolved. So I'm really looking forward to diving into that. Sonia is a therapist, a somatic practitioner, and mystical curandera whose work is rooted in the belief that the body is always speaking, and healing begins when we learn how to listen. Her work has been shaped by years of walking between the clinical and the spiritual, supporting clients in traditional mental health spaces, deepening her own relationship with somatic and intuitive healing, and learning to trust the body as a source of wisdom, protection, and truth. And today, we're diving touching base on how that's evolved, where she's at with that now and the work she's doing, and also talking about a topic that has been part of her own healing and that she incorporates in her work as well, which is tarot, and how from tarot she was inspired to create her own oracle deck, which is amazing and so inspiring. We're going to hear about how that was born. So without further ado, come on in, Sonia, and give us a reintroduction and how you've been in this new season of your life.
Hi, everyone. Sonia Fregoso. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me back. I feel like it's very special to be back a whole year later, a whole chapter later. Definitely feel like I'm in a different, a different place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, for sure. Pregnancy was beautiful in its beautiful moments, but it was also very hard and uncomfortable, carrying life in your body. So the fact that I am a somatic curandera and I work with the body and I focus on, listening to the body, being pregnant was so intense because I'm very connected to my body. I'm listening to it all the time and it's always speaking to me. And so in pregnancy, I was just like, whoa, there's a lot going on right now. There's like a whole life inside of me. So that was really trippy.
Yeah.
And then I'll say a little bit about like my whole journey. I actually had a C-section, which was not, wasn't planned. It's not something that I wanted. I wanted to experience, giving birth vaginally, but it just wasn't possible because of, different complications that happen.
Uh-huh.
And so the recovery of that was really intense too. Even a year later, I
Yes.
still feel my scar, like discomfort in my scar area and like pain, and like it's really weird that I could still feel so much even a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And so the recovery was very slow. I think, before pregnancy, I was all about slowing down, right? That still is what I preach. You know, I have a podcast. It's called the Slow Down Podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you know, I've always been about slowing down, but pregnancy and postpartum really slowed me down. And then having a baby now, like he really slows me down. Like the one thing that I've learned about parenthood is that your child needs you to slow down because they are so tapped in to the present moment. It's wild. It's so magical. It's like, oh my God, I want to be where you are. I want to, you know, I don't want to think
Right?
about all these responsibilities that I have, you
Mm.
know, and so I want to be here in the moment with you. And so
Yes.
just this whole journey has really amplified the slowing down in my life. And that's basically what my whole journey has been about, is slowing down because, you know, being someone who has experienced so much trauma, right? I have complex PTSD, just like many of us do. Um, it disconnects you from your body. And when you're disconnected from your body, you kind of attach yourself to everything outside of you,
Mm.
right? So the material world, validation from other people, right? You're outside of yourself. And a lot of what happens in order to cope, or the survival mechanism, is to go fast, is to
Yeah.
live fast,
Fast
right?
pace.
And always be doing something. Slowing down is so hard. It's scary. It's uncomfortable.
Especially in
It's
the society today, obviously, for sure.
exactly,
Throw that on top
exactly,
of it.
exactly. And that's the biggest
Yeah.
aspect of why healing is so hard, is because of societal expectations,
Yes.
right? And the conditioning that, you know, we've
Extremely
been,
hard.
yeah. So now as a mom, I'm very lucky to have a village. You know, there's so many people in my life helping me, and that has made my life as a mother really easy. You know, one of the reasons why I could be here on the podcast is because, you know, I can count on people. You know, my husband,
Mm.
his parents, my sisters, his sisters, right?
Nice.
His nieces who are older now. They're like in their 30s maybe, so they're much older, and so they're always helping. It's so beautiful to have a village, and I know that that's not true for a lot of people,
Mm.
and I really hope that in the future that changes, you know, for everyone, because every mother and child deserves that kind of support, the kind of support that I'm receiving. And I actually just recently saw a post um, on Instagram talking about how the reason why motherhood is so
I
exhausting
saw that one.
is because of colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the support
Because
need to change. I
ex-
saw that one.
exactly. Because
It's
back
true.
in the day, our
Village.
ancestors had a village, and
Mhm.
motherhood was not exhausting. It was a shared role, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you know, and the men did their part and the women did theirs, but there was always the women helping each other and
Right.
everybody helped each other, right? As their community, as their village, whereas now totally different times, different society, everything is different in how we work and how we live. And we've
Yeah.
lost a lot of that support
Yeah.
and, well, connection to community
Right.
in
And you
itself.
know what? I want to take something back that I said earlier. I said I was lucky. And I think part of it, yes, I do feel like a very lucky person, but also I've done a lot of internal work
Hmm.
to feel connected to my body and myself, which has rippled effect into connecting with my family,
Hmm.
right? Because my family is not perfect, right? I would say I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and it's still a little dysfunctional. Um, but I've worked on myself internally to be able to be in relation with all the people in my family with boundaries, right? Loving them, and also setting boundaries and asking for what I need, right? All of that took a lot of internal work. And so now my relationships are different. They're working differently the dynamics have changed because of all the work that I have done internally. So it's not just luck. I've
Yeah.
also done a lot of work.
That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that and bringing that up, and that came to you. And that's true. That makes a lot of sense, because if we're in a place of, having some separation from the family, some other kind of disconnection, whatever kind of tension there is, you may or may not feel safe to reach out, or if they reach out to you, vice versa, have that safety or feel comfortable, right? So having that time to really reflect on, okay, what it means to heal the family dynamics, relationships, communication, like all of that starts with the self, and maybe then, talking
And
and
then,
bringing the family in,
right,
right?
having hard conversations.
Yes, hard conversations, which is,
Mhm.
yeah, something I'm starting to do too, with my family, and my husband as well, with his mom, is because we want to do things differently. And that includes having those difficult conversations that we never had. And
Yeah.
if we want to change, and we want to make change, and for the future, that has to happen. And it's not
Yeah.
easy. It's hard. It's very hard. So I
It's
really appreciate
hard.
you sharing that.
It's really hard when you
Comfortable.
haven't had the hard conversations with yourself first,
Mm,
right? To be
right.
honest with yourself. And that's
Yeah.
what my work is all about.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, if you're not like bringing that out to the surface to yourself and acknowledging it, it's going to be even more uncomfortable, awkward, or should I just to
Exactly.
even talk about it out loud. I'm blessed to be here in my home working and recording while my girls are out here, playing and laughing and crying while my mom or my mother-in-law is here with them, and, we have that. We have our moms to support us and help us. And
Yeah.
so that, it's very unfortunate and sad, and it makes me angry too, that a lot of mothers and women don't have that support, when we all should. And it's very frustrating for me, I feel like.
Hmm.
How does it feel
Hmm.
for you when you hear, your clients, your patients, or you just see things like that, other moms now not having that support, and like, you're over here, I have all this support. Like, what comes up for you? What emotions come up
Yeah.
for
I
you?
mean, it's really sad, right? There's a lot of sadness and there's a lot of grief. And then there's the ancestral piece, right? Because I know why this is happening.
Mm,
I know why mothers are not being supported. And it all, goes back to historically what has happened in society, how our perception of women and our perception of motherhood and our perception of children have changed because of it all. The root is colonialism, but
mhm.
there's also just so many other systems that have
Right,
been created
right.
since then that just don't help the cause, right? And
Exactly.
so it makes me really sad, but it also gives me a lot of fire,
Mm,
right? I'm a very passionate person, and so it gives me more fire to just continue helping, continue showing up for my community, and just
mhm.
continuing, teaching what I know
Right.
to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's kind of sharing again what you're learning, what feels right for you, what feels true, and sharing that to help other people see, like, this is maybe what you've experienced as similar to what I've experienced. And,
Yeah.
we can still like come together, or we can do this healing work together, letting others know that they're not alone, because
Right.
we're all going through it, maybe just different stories, right?
Yeah.
But pretty much similar circumstances, or the root of it is that separation that we all have. And, the lack of support, is very sad,
Yeah.
and I hope things change. I feel like gradually, little by little, they are, as now, things are coming to the surface more. We're having these conversations maybe more through social media, through
Right.
podcasts, through even workshops, even ceremonies, even rituals, different kinds of people stepping into the healing work. And,
Mhm.
that's where it starts, right? Like with the healings. And I think through time, little by little, we can start to get that back. I think that is going to be what's going to happen. Maybe when our children are a bit bigger. I don't know. We'll see what
Mhm.
happens in the years to come.
Yeah.
But things are definitely changing, and things are definitely shifting right now in the world all
Mhm.
around, and coming back to our old ways, our ancestral
Right.
ways, all of that. I feel like reclaiming that and learning what that means for you and your family is definitely, I feel like, part of that change. And stepping into that role is when we discover where we came from. What did our ancestors do? What are some of those
Yeah.
healing traditions? What did they practice? What foods did they grow?
I think, to add just a little bit more to my journey, right, as a mom now, is being able to connect, right, to my roots and connect to that ancestral wisdom that we all hold, right? We just have to do the work to remember. And at the same time, keeping up with all the changes that are happening in society, right? Like technology, especially, right? So keeping up with both worlds, the old world or the ancestral world, and then this new world that we're all creating, and keeping up to date with how to use technology, how to discern what is real and what is not real online,
Yeah.
right? Because I have to be able to teach my son all of these things. And so it's been very exhausting, right? To have to hold it all together.
It
But
is.
coming back to my body has always grounded me. And so that's what I practice, is just always coming back, you know, because when we stay out too long and we consume too much, we desensitize ourselves, we disconnect, right? It's so important to just always come back.
Come back to within. Yeah. On that
Yeah.
note, what does that mean when you say come home to yourself? And for you, when you're in that state, what helps you
Mhm.
return back to yourself?
Yeah, so what helps me is what I'm trying to teach everyone, right? Which is coming back to the physical sensations in your body. Because when you can do that, right, you come into the present moment, because then you are connecting to what is happening to your body in that moment, whether it's your breath, whether it's like tingliness in your body or temperature changes in your body, or maybe there's an ache or a pain, or maybe there's expansion and calmness, right? Like whatever physical sensation is in your body, that's what brings me back. And then I remember, like, oh, okay, I'm okay. But if there is tension, if there is like a heart racing, then I sit with that, right? And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Let's sit with this. Let's just breathe, right? So always coming back to my breath as well. And then I pull cards, right? So pulling cards always helps me come back to just me here, my intuition, right? My connection to my ancestors and my spirit guides, my spirituality, which, my spirituality is my life. Like, it is my lifestyle. I'm never not spiritual. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
lifestyle. It's just who you are. It's part
Yep.
of you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And again, that takes time and work, right? To learn how to come into our body, to listen to it, to slow down and stop and pause, to return, to remember that, you can come
Yeah.
back to yourself and your body, because many, like you said, through grief, through trauma, through whatever, that can be difficult to even stop and slow down and then sit with yourself and
Right.
feel
It's
those
a it's
sensations.
a it's a skill,
Hmm.
right? And in order to harness your skills, you have to practice.
Hmm. Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I
Yep.
think that's one of the things that I feel I hear a lot often is, from other moms, is that why I just feel I can't sit down for just, 1 minute or 2 minutes, or I got to get up. I get anxious if I'm just, it's uncomfortable. But that's again
Mhm.
where that's the sign that that's where the work is, right?
Exactly.
Um,
That's where the growth is. It's in the
yes,
discomfort. And
exactly.
and I do want to say that there are ways to sit with discomfort that is not overwhelming. And that is by focusing on the physical sensations in your body, not the story that you're holding in your mind.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's through, I mean, sure, doing that kind of work, like, for example, that you do, right, is getting more
Mhm.
into detail on what that could look like. And for each person be different, could be different for
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Coming back to motherhood, I'm curious on, like, has there been any new layers of healing or thing that's come up for you so far?
Yeah. so there's so many different layers. I feel like parenthood is so layered. It's a completely different dimension of reality, to be honest, right? So what I've experienced with my son, um, you know, like fresh out of pregnancy, right? Fresh postpartum. There was so much going on in my body and in my mind, because I wasn't getting any sleep, um, and I was just tired, right? So when you're tired, your body goes into survival mode, right? And for me, survival mode is just being stuck in my head, right? Trying to predict the future, right? Trying to control the future. I didn't want anything to happen to my son. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to, all these things were happening. So I would say maybe I experienced postpartum anxiety for sure. And so I was being triggered a lot. My nervous system was dysregulated all the time. Um, but I was keeping track of what was coming up for me. And then when I would see, so I have a somatic healer. When I would see her, we would, go through it and I would tell her, okay, these are the images and the thoughts that are recurring in my everyday. And it was like, I had like an intrusive thought of like just letting go of my baby and letting him fall. Right. And I was like, I keep having that intrusive thought and it's so scary and I don't want to do that. And so we went into the body. Right. And that was the layers of healing started happening there. With every intrusive thought I had, I sat with it. I sat with every single one, not judging it. I didn't shame myself. I didn't say that I was a bad mother or anything like that. I knew it was my psyche trying to heal. Okay. And so, because I have a lot of experience doing this stuff.
Right.
So for me, the thoughts and the intrusive thoughts that I have don't mean a lot.
It's
They
just
just mean
information.
it's just information that my body is trying to heal something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like at the beginning. And then so it's been almost a year, right? Since I've had River. So then in the middle of like postpartum is when I started to feel a little bit more grounded because I was getting a little bit more sleep, right? I wasn't
Right.
as tired. I also decided to stop breastfeeding. So I only breastfed for 1 month. And because I knew right away, I was like, this is too much for me. Like my mental health is going down the drain. Like I was experiencing, I forgot what it's called, but I was experiencing that every time he would feed, I would feel very depressed.
Ah,
And it was only when he was feeding.
okay.
Okay, like I would literally start crying
Wow.
and I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like this is way too much for me. My mental health is going down the drain. And so
Mm-hmm.
I stopped breastfeeding after a month and I felt really good about it. I felt good about the decision. Choosing myself is something that I worked really hard to get to
Mm-hmm.
pre-pregnancy. And so postpartum, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let that go. I still have to choose myself. I love my son, but I know he'll understand. And
Yes.
so, and he is fine.
Yes.
Fed is best, right?
Right.
And he was fed.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would say there's like four 4 trimesters of postpartum, just similar to pregnancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, almost a year later, I feel very grounded. I feel very mentally clear and healthy. I feel like, I mean, I'm doing so much. Like you've seen me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing so much and it's not overwhelming. I feel like I'm still taking my time.
You're
I'm still slowing
supported.
down. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
supported. And so it's just, it was a little roller coaster at the beginning, but I knew that shaming myself was not going to help me. Right. And so I practiced so much compassion and I gave myself so much grace throughout the postpartum, season of motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do. I still give myself a lot of compassion and a lot of grace. And I don't think I'll ever stop that
Yeah.
because um, creating life is wild.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Oh,
it's
no,
a
it takes
lot
so
of
much from
work.
you. Yeah.
It
No, it
takes
takes so
so
much.
much.
Yeah. There's some ways, some of your go-to ways that help you bring that compassion and grace to yourself. What helps you to be more compassionate with yourself?
Yeah, so I like to practice what I preach. And so what I teach others and what I learned for myself, what works for me and what has gotten me through the darkest moments, is going inward and talking to my body. Because I believe that every physical sensation or every emotion that we experience is connected to a physical sensation. And every physical sensation is connected to a part of our psyche that is wounded, right? So it could be a little you, like an inner child, or it could be the you in pregnancy, right? It could be the you from last week, right? It doesn't, what I say is that our emotions are messengers from the past. Right. And so when we go inward and we start connecting to those emotions, we talk to them and we give them grace and we give them compassion. That's how I give myself compassion, is by giving it to my body and letting it know, like, yeah, this makes sense. Of course you're exhausted. Like you just gave birth. Like, of course. Yes. Okay. I totally understand that. Which is the complete opposite of what we do most of the time. Right? Most of the time we're like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I do this? And oh my
Right.
God. And we're just so mad at
Bypass it.
ourselves. Yeah. So practicing just being compassionate to your body, validating your body, empathizing with your body of like, of course, this makes so much sense.
Yeah. So
You know, that you feel
verbal,
this.
whether it's, communication in your mind or mentally or
Right.
out loud, right?
So there's like a whole method to this. Right? It's going inward, connecting to the physical sensations, and then I also use visualization. Right? So the visualization is different for everyone though, because not everyone is the same, visually, visual wise. Some people, they can visualize the physical sensation in their body because I ask them to describe it in detail, right? So is it bubbly? Is it tingly? Is it hard? Is it fluffy? Or, whatever words that come up for you to describe the physical sensation and then describe the shape. And so some people see a shape, right? And then other people, they get, and this is when your body starts speaking to you. So you're inward, you're focusing on the sensation, and your body starts giving you image, symbolism, basically. So some people see a butterfly, they'll see a snake, they'll see a flower, they'll see a sphere, some people have gone as far as like space, outer space,
Yeah.
So the visualization is very important too, because it kind of, and that's kind of
Some
where the
messages.
oracle deck comes in, is the symbolism,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because so many people get symbols from their body, and because your body doesn't always speak in English,
Right.
right? It speaks in symbols, it speaks in colors, it speaks in sensations.
Just like we would receive message and guidance from spirit,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Or higher power.
Well, so yes, so
Simulate.
I'm so glad that you said that, because my whole methodology is soma and spirit, because spirit lives in our body. We are spirit.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's beautiful too, because, like we said, it's sometimes it's not going to be through just clear words. It can be visual for a lot of people. And
Exactly.
some people who can't see visual, then it's sensation or feeling, right?
Right.
So thank you for bringing that up. That's a very helpful picture to seeing. Number one is like, how can I practice compassion and grace when it sounds simple, but it can be really difficult for a lot of us to do and remind ourselves to do it. It's like, oh wait, I've been shaming myself and being guilty this whole time, when I can actually like, hey, no wonder, it's okay. Like, and some people can get kind of like, I've never done that before. Like kind of like awkward that they have never done it before. So it takes some time to, like you said, like a skill to get used to and to practice it. Thank you so much for bringing that up about the Soma and Spirit Oracle card deck, because we're going to get into that in a bit. Let's go back to first, for those who don't know and who are not too familiar with tarot, can you give us a little bit of, like, in your own words, what tarot is?
Yeah. So, tarot, in essence, is just a deck of cards. Okay? A deck of cards with pictures and symbols. A tarot deck can be used as a spiritual tool. Okay? It's not a spiritual tool like that's not why it was created. A tarot deck was created as a card game. Okay? But different cultures, right, started using it for divination, right? To speak to spirit, to receive messages, because imagery is that powerful, right? Symbolism is that powerful. It connects you to the bigger picture. It connects you to something bigger than yourself. So tarot deck was started to be used as a spiritual tool a long time ago. I could give you a history lesson, but it's really long.
It's okay. I'm sure we could look it up. It's all good.
Yes. So that's what it is. It's a spiritual tool. And, different people use it in different ways. Because I'm a therapist, I used it in therapy with my clients as a projective tool. Okay. And a projective tool, if you think of the ink blot tests, have you ever heard of those?
Yes.
Where you kind of just interpret what you see.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I used tarot in therapy. I made it really fun. I think healing doesn't have to be serious and it could be really fun. And so that's why I started integrating tarot into my work. And so I would shuffle the cards, right? And I would make sure I would tell my clients, like, we're not doing this as a divination tool. Okay.
Make that clear.
I could use it that way, but I'm not here in therapy. Right. So it's just a projective tool. So I would shuffle the cards, they would pick a card, and for me as a therapist, it's more important to know what you see than what I see.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right.
And so I would show the card and be like, okay, just engage with it, just look at it and wait for whatever needs to come up to come up. And so, for example, there is the card, the Emperor, and it's like an older gentleman on a throne. And right away, clients would be like, oh, reminds me of my dad. And so we would get into the dad conversation. Like, okay, tell me about your dad, right? And the work would just get so deep just by looking at the card.
Yeah, because it just brings in that trigger or reminds them of whatever they see. Something comes up.
Yeah. And so the way that I used it in therapy is actually the way that I learned to use it for myself, like reading cards for myself. Is to just allow the card to trigger me, basically. Right? And then that's where I would get the messages of like, okay, I need to work on this. Oh, okay, my dad's coming up. Oh, okay. Like it's reminding me of this situation. Okay. And you have to be really honest with yourself because tarot, if you if you get into studying the symbolism and the cards and the themes and the archetypes, because it's full of archetypes, that's when you get deeper into the meaning making of the cards. And so it's just a beautiful, powerful tool for healing and self-reflection. I love it so much.
It does. I haven't been using tarot very long, and I started when you had some of those, when you were doing the weekly or monthly tarot things. I think I only was able to go like once because I was exhausted by the time.
I know,
I was in
really
bed
late.
by the time you had it. I'm like, I really want to make it, but I'm just tired. You know how it is. So anyway, my tarot journey just started not that long ago. But when did yours start? I want to know, when did your tarot journey start? How young you were, and like what interested you? Like, how did that all come about?
Okay, that's a pretty fun story. So it started in 2018. I think I grew up very religious. And I moved away from religion when I started college. And so that was like around my 20s. And then, so my sisters kind of also were going through similar journeys, but we're also very curious women. right? Me and my sisters. I only grew up with sisters. I have no brothers. So the household in that I grew up in was very intense, very intuitive, very witchy, without even knowing, right? We were not trying to be witches. We're just being women,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so growing up in that way. So in 2018, about four of us, there's five of us, four of us were like um, getting into like crystals. And, one of my sisters, she knew somebody on Instagram that was having a tarot class.
Mm.
And she was like, let's go. Right. So we're very risky like that. We're
Mm-hmm.
very curious and want to try new things. And so we're like, okay, let's go, let's do it. Even though we were freaking terrified. Because
What we're
growing up
taught.
religious,
Yes.
yeah.
We'll get into that
Growing up
right now.
religious, tarot was the devil's work, right?
Yeah.
Tarot was
That's
so
what I
bad,
used
it was
that's what I
so
was taught too.
evil.
Mm-hmm.
Tarot would ruin your life, right? And then
Don't go
put
near it. Yeah.
on top of that, all the movies that we would see and how misrepresented tarot is, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
It's misrepresented in Hollywood. And so I had so much fear in the class. I was like, oh my God, I don't want her to read my cards. Like, that's so scary. I just want to learn about it. And the first thing that the instructor said was like, tarot is not like what you see in the movies. And I was like, oh, okay. And then
Mm.
she kept on going, like, tarot is not even about fortune telling. And I was like, oh, okay. So she built a
What
lot of
is it?
safety
Yeah.
in that container, right? She
That's
made me feel
important.
so safe.
Yeah.
And she was like, and the way that she was explaining it. So by this time I was already a therapist,
Mm.
not in private practice, but in community mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that she was describing it was like very therapeutic. It was very psychological. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my God, I can use this with clients. Like, this is so
Mm.
cool because it has to do with so many aspects of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? It has to do with finances, with love, relationships, spirituality,
Exactly.
your thoughts, right? Your thought patterns. So the different suits in the tarot deck correspond to these different aspects of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the major arcana, which are all the archetypes, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
the child, the mother, the father, the witch, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so many different archetypes. And just the way that she explained it to us, I fell in love with tarot. I was like, oh
Mm.
my God, I want to use
You're
tarot with my
fascinated by it.
clients.
Yeah.
And ever since that day, I started studying tarot. I slept with my deck. I went all in, and
Right.
I just, so everything that I
Uh,
know comes from like that class, which was just like a few hours, and
mm-hmm.
then self-study, right? So I
Mm.
bought all the books. I bought a bunch of tarot decks.
Text.
I would pull a card every single day because I wanted to learn the tarot deck, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to use it in my work,
Mm.
and I knew I could. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I could totally use this. This is a
Mm-hmm.
projective tool.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how it started.
That's amazing. That well, also that call, like when you noticed it was you were intrigued by it and fascinated by it and just kept listening to that and
Mhm.
which led you to where you are now, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think that's an important message too, is like when we find something that we feel pulled to or excited about or fascinated by or even curious,
Mhm.
right? It's a sign that
Mhm.
maybe your whatever you want to call it, your higher self, your past version self, like your intuition, whatever,
Yeah.
is calling you towards that for a reason, and
Yeah.
whatever kind of sensation for you, like
Mhm.
what were the sensations that you felt that you can recall from it, or that maybe that you still feel today when you went with the
Yeah. I
tarot?
mean, there was a lot of like how would I describe, like a pull, right? So it was definitely a pull in my body, like, oh, I want to know more. And then there was like a rush of like I describe it as like a fire, right? There's like a rush, like, oh my God, this is
Mhm.
so cool, like an inspiration. So there was just a lot of
Mm.
there was heat, there was just a lot of flow in my body, right? And it was calling me. And that has really never scared me. And I say that because I think curiosity scares a lot of people,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Um, and that is actually, it comes from the conditioning, right, that we've received about, what's that one saying? Curiosity killed the
Just the
cat
cat.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's the
Yeah,
first thing that came to my head actually
yeah,
when you said that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So things like that, right? We've been taught to like stay
Yes.
small,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Don't do it. Don't play with fire and things like that. So you really have to work on your relationship with curiosity, because
Mhm.
curiosity is so beautiful. It's so
And
fun.
yeah, it can be
Um,
fun and
uh,
non-judgmental and on a light way and a neutral way to seeing
mhm.
different to seeing it in a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's some of the misconceptions and fears around it, right? You already talked a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit about that. Like I remember for me, it was more of like, you know, dark magic or calling in demons or this and that,
Right.
which obviously yeah, you'd be like, oh God, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go near that. Or if you even pass by like a tarot reader sign in your community, you're like, oh, don't go there. You gotta
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yes.
it just turns you off. But that's what the conditioning, that's what the colonialism, that's what it
Oh,
does, is it
yep.
creates this totally like fearful message and distortion, like way of thinking about it and seeing it because they knew how powerful it was, right? They knew how
Mhm.
powerful that the women who practiced it, whatever ways that they use it, whether for spiritual healing, like
Right.
whatever ways that they used it, right? They saw how powerful it was to the women, how it affected their communities and how it strengthened them. And not just
Yeah.
that, but also like indigenous practices and all different kinds of rituals, right? We see why that's all taken away is because they saw the power
Oh,
that it had and they didn't want them to have that
exactly.
power. So they
Exactly.
create a message. They create something to kind of just like a bunch of rhetoric or propaganda to like, no, like this is what it does to scare everybody
Mhm.
else away and,
Exactly.
turn the message upside down. And then we end up where we are now, just dismantling everything. And that's part of
Mhm.
the healing process, right? So, any of you out there listening to this, I can relate and you think back to your tias or your, I don't know, whomever, your neighbor or whatever,
Mhm.
and you judge them like, hey, it's okay. You didn't know any better. We all maybe have some ignorance there or just not knowing because of all the hidden messages out there. So it takes
Exactly.
time. That's, practice grace with ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
What other ways can tarot become a tool for self-awareness or maybe any nervous system healing work or rather than like
Mm.
prediction or anything like that? Do you use it in that way or has it helped you work
Yeah.
with clients in that way too? And how so?
Yes. So the way that I use it is very body based and body led. Okay. And so, especially if you're just starting out with tarot, you're going to notice how dysregulated you are. Okay. So, I'll use myself as an example. When I had first started using it, I was still very scared,
Mm.
right? The class built a lot of safety for me,
Uh-huh.
and I jumped into that curiosity. But then when I started using it for myself, I noticed like even just touching the deck, I was like my palms were sweaty,
Mm.
right? That is a sign,
Uh-huh.
right? That you are triggered, you're dysregulated, and you need to ground yourself. The biggest lesson that I learned, also the biggest mistake that I made was not grounding myself first. Because if you're triggered, then that means you're in survival mode.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, I think I said this earlier, when you're in survival mode, you kind of just you
The
go off the
spiral.
rails basically. Yeah, exactly. You spiral. And so you
Mm-hmm.
do not
Makes
want to
sense.
spiral when you are working with tarot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because although tarot is beautiful and magical, it's very powerful because it holds a story. It holds a story of truth. It holds a story of transformation, and it holds a story of how to come back to yourself. So that's how I teach tarot. It's a cyclical map, all
Mm-hmm.
right, of how to get to self trust. but you have to work with it very slowly and grounded. You have to
Yes.
ground yourself. So, and that's how you can work with tarot to heal your nervous system, is one card at a time.
Mm,
Okay, what am I feeling in my body? Oh, I'm feeling chills. Okay, maybe I'll put it back. Let me
yeah.
ground myself. Let me go outside. This is just a deck of cards, right? Just remind yourself of the reality that it's just a deck of cards and
Uh-huh.
you hold the power, right?
Uh-huh.
These cards do not hold the power. You do, right?
Yeah, I
So
like
there's
that. It's a
there's a
helpful
there's a lot
reminder.
of there's a lot of self-talk involved in working with tarot too, because tarot will have a conversation with you
Hmm.
because the images,
Yes.
they say so much, right? They can tell you so many things if you really pay attention. And so a lot of the work that I do and a lot of what I preach is grounding yourself, right,
Mm-hmm.
in your body, feeling centered,
Mm-hmm.
because the more centered and grounded that you feel, the deeper you're going to connect spiritually to the cards or to anything really.
Yes, that I totally agree with that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, how will we receive the guidance or be able to receive the message or anything like that unless we are in a state of our nervous system feeling a bit more calmer, more
Right.
relaxed, more grounded, and stable and safety,
Right.
like you mentioned, the
Exactly.
safety. It's a
And
big
so
thing.
again, in order to get there, right, you use the deck to inform yourself of what is happening in your psyche, right? So going back to the psyche, going back to talking to
Mm,
all of your different parts.
I
So
love that.
maybe you pull the card, maybe you pull the death card, or maybe you pull the devil
Mhm.
card. Everybody's afraid of the devil
Mm,
card. Right? And so you pull the devil card and you're like, oh my God, that one is so scary. I
mhm.
want you to pay attention
That's
to
true.
your body and talk to it. What just happened? Right?
Yes.
You're so scared. I can feel your fear. You're talking to a past self, right? You're talking
Mm,
to a little messenger from the past who was terrified of the devil, and you
mm.
need to talk to that little one,
That is
right?
so good.
Yeah, so that's kind of
Yes.
how I use
I
the tarot
love
deck,
that.
is to trigger you, right? To trigger your psyche,
Mhm.
but so that you can do the internal work.
Yeah, I love that. It there's so many ways that you can work with the tarot, right? It's not just a form of divination,
Absolutely.
receiving guidance, spiritual guidance, or life
Absolutely.
guidance, or whatever, but also a form of your own personal healing journey, the
Mhm.
parts of
Mhm.
you that
Right.
when you pull the card, it's like something that is calling for your attention or your
Right.
recognition to sit with. So that's fascinating.
Right.
And yeah, I'm going to start practicing it with it in that way because I have not done that yet. So
Yeah,
I'm going to have
you'll
to start
learn
doing
so
that.
much about yourself.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I love that. So do you feel like that helps also women reconnect to their intuition and like they're knowing when they're
Oh,
working with the tarot? How do you
absolutely.
feel that
Yes.
has helped you and
Yes.
other maybe your clients?
For me, it was the key.
Mm.
Right? Because yes, I used it in the way that I just described.
Uh-huh.
Um, but deeper into my work and my self-study of the tarot, I was able to use it as a divination tool, right? To speak to my ancestors. And I specifically speak to my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And so I would connect with her and I would ask her questions of like, what is some guidance that you want to give me today? And I would pull a card and just the first thing that would come up for me, right? It's like, oh, okay, she's telling me this. And then I would ask her another question and then I pull another card and she would speak to me again. Right. And so I would just have conversations with my grandmother through the tarot.
Mm.
And I still do that to this day. And I speak to different spirit guides and things that I believe in.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so just trusting, right, that what comes up for me, right, that was my intuition. And I knew the difference because I was no longer feeling dysregulated. I was no longer scared, right? I felt very grounded and clear.
Uh-huh.
And so the messages would just come through just crispy
Yeah,
clear.
exactly. So you were
Mhm.
able to discern between the difference between the two.
Yeah,
Wow,
absolutely.
that is amazing. So fascinating. So what led you to creating the Oracle deck? How were you inspired to do that? How did it come to life? The idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea was there for a very long time, probably since I started using the cards. mostly because a lot of the decks that I would buy, they didn't look like me,
Mm-hmm.
right? There was just a lot of, white people, colonial people in the tarot
Fashion. Yeah.
deck,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so, I dealt with that. I was like, okay, it's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm just gonna keep using the deck. And then I think it was around 2020, yeah, like around the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot more people started coming into my orbit on Instagram, who were into tarot decks, and they, were creating tarot decks for people of color and things like that. And so I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a diverse tarot decks. And so
Right.
I started buying those. And then that's kind of when my mind was like, I want to create one day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my first idea
Put it
was
out
I want to
there.
create a
Mm-hmm.
tarot deck. Right. And I put it out there. But then I was like, oh, it's going to take forever, but whatever. It's in the back burner, and I kept using tarot decks. And then I started, um, creating more space for my methodology, Soma and Spirit. I started coaching people on Soma and Spirit, and then even in my coaching, I was using oracle cards and tarot cards. And more, my method of healing started becoming clearer and clearer. And I started noticing that I was guiding people in the same exact way. So like I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's a
It just
method
kept
here. Like
coming.
this
Yeah.
works. And so that got very clear. And then I got pregnant. And then I was like, I want to spend more time with my son. I don't want to work as much.
Uh-huh.
So how can I create that for myself, but still take care of my community?
Uh-huh.
And so I created an online course, and I created so many different things,
Uh-huh.
right? And then finally I was like, the Oracle deck. I have to create an Oracle deck, and I could put my method on the Oracle deck. And so it's on the guidance card. There's
Uh-huh.
like one guidance card,
Mm.
and it basically tells you how to pay attention to your body as you're pulling cards
Oh,
from
okay.
the Oracle deck. So everything we talked about today is in the Oracle deck. And so I had my sister, who's an artist, create and illustrate all of the images. I can show you some of them
Did
here.
you guys come up with them together, or like you came up
Yeah,
through? She
so
chose.
we sat down together. I came up with all of the words.
Mm.
So there's about 30 words. And I had her, what's that word? She collaborated with me with the words, because there was a few words that she was like, I don't think that's
Mm.
a good one. I was like, okay, fine. And so, we would go
You
back and
work
forth
together. Mm-hmm.
with the words. But the imagery, I think, it was so cool because I told her what I imagined the card to be, but she couldn't see what I was seeing, in my head, yet she created exactly what I wanted.
Oh, that is
You know what
amazing.
I mean? That was really
So
cool.
cool.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I can show you, everybody loves this card.
Oh, the brain with the butterfly at the
Yeah.
attached in the imagination. That is so cool. And it's like little
Yeah.
leaves as the brain. Are they
No,
little
those are
leaves? Oh,
butterflies.
they're all butterflies. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now I can see it. I just saw the one butterfly
Yeah.
on the edge. How cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that is
that's
so
one of them.
that.
And so I kind of proposed it to her, and I was like, look, I'll pay you, right? I'll pay you for illustrating the entire deck. Um, you know, and I did, even though it doesn't have a guidebook with like the meanings of the card, that was intentional,
Yeah.
because my work is to help people tap into their intuition,
Uh-huh.
right? If I give you the meaning of the card,
You're not
you're
gonna
not gonna
use it.
even gonna try.
Yes, yes.
You're not gonna try to tap into your
So it
intuition, and
forces
I
you
want you to try.
to practice and
Exactly.
strengthen it, which I
Yeah.
appreciate. I appreciate that because a lot of the ones that you do buy come with an oracle book, right?
Yeah.
And then, right, like for me, for instance, I'm like, okay, let me look without the book. Then later on, I'm like, okay, what does the book say?
Exactly.
sometimes,
And
but
so
that's like helped me right
I
away.
wanted to stay true to my work, which is it's more important what you see than what I see.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no guidebook, but I did for my sister at least, and not even for all the cards, maybe for like 10 cards, I gave her a little description of what it means to me,
Mm.
right? But then after like 9 or 10 cards, I was like, just do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like just whatever comes to you,
Come to
I want
mind.
that on the card.
Yeah.
And so it was very collaborative. We're both very spiritual, so she connects to her spirituality in her own way, but
Mm-hmm.
we both believe in pretty much the same things.
Mm-hmm.
We're always going back and forth with our spiritual beliefs and, just
Talking
sharing,
about them.
about our dreams, and we share about our connections with spirit and things like that. So
That's
it's a very spiritual
beautiful.
deck, filled with both our energies,
Mm-hmm.
which I would say is very powerful and transformative because we've been going through our own healing
Yeah,
journey for like the past 20 years.
exactly.
So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And so it was during pregnancy, when I was pregnant, that I proposed this to her.
Mm.
And I was like, I feel like this is gonna help me, my family, right? So that I could spend time with my son, but also it's a gift that I'm giving to my community with all of my wisdom, all my knowledge, and all my energy. And so that's kind of why I created it.
Beautiful. Love that. A beautiful story. I love that. I liked the reel that you had made once with your sister when you were like drawing a card, I think for the first time, and then you were like, oh, like I forgot which card it was, but I was like, oh wow, that is
Yeah.
so cool. And it got me emotional too.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that was really wild.
yeah. I was like,
We
wow.
pulled the same cards
Oh
twice.
yeah,
Like we had shuffled it and everything, and when we pulled it, we were just like, "That's weird." And then we pulled the second card, and we were like, "Whoa, my God, that's
right?
really
Yes,
weird."
yeah,
How
well,
did we
spirit
pull
never
the
lies.
same exact cards?
Exactly. That is so cool.
Yeah,
What intention or energy do you want women or whomever and to feel when working with these cards?
I want you to feel love. I want you to feel compassion. I want you to feel power. I
Mm,
want you to feel just like, yeah, the point of the deck is to give people their spiritual autonomy, right? Their
mm,
spiritual sovereignty.
mm,
Um, that's why there's no guidebook, right? To tell you what these things mean. It is literally whatever comes to you.
mm.
That is what it means. Like your interpretation is correct.
Right. There's
Always.
no right or wrong.
Yes.
Exactly. I love that.
And so
Were
it's
there
about power. It's about power and choice.
Yeah, yeah. And that strengthens your own trust, your self-trust within yourself
Mhm.
as well, instead of looking outside, right? Coming back to yourself
Exactly.
inside. Love that. Such a
Exactly.
beautiful, beautiful tool modality. Were there any emotional or like any kind of spiritual lessons you feel that surfaced when you were creating them?
Absolutely, for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
She went through a very hard journey with the deck. So it took her 18 months to create. Um, and not all the cards were like heavy and deep for her. Some of them brought her a lot of relief, love, and joy.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there's one card. Oh, it's this one, the very first one, the transformation card.
Okay. Is it a snake, a serpent?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a snake shedding its skin,
Shake setting its skin. Okay.
and it's the transformation card.
Oh,
So another thing that I want everyone to know is that she drew these images dot by dot.
wow. That's amazing. So much
So this is
detail.
dot work. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think it's called a stippling effect
The
or
camera
dot work.
doesn't do it justice. Yeah. I gotta order my
I know,
deck.
I'm so sorry. So she said that when she was creating this card, it brought up a lot for her because she's also going through a healing journey and going through transformation, shedding and letting go.
Mhm.
And It's actually a really good story. She had texted me when she was creating this card, and she was like, I'm very triggered. I was working on this card and I don't know what to do. Please help me. And so basically, this is where the guidance card was born, because what I texted her was how to come back to herself. And that's exactly what is on the guidance card. So the guidance card is a text message that I sent to my sister.
In photo form.
In photo form, yeah.
In a visual.
So she went through a lot with
That's
the
amazing.
transformation card.
That's so cool.
And the guidance card was born from the transformation.
That is so awesome. I love them. Just the story and the depth and like all the emotion and the meaning and everything like involved and experienced in the human experience, and then, you know, created in this deck for also people who, again, we all hold the same emotions, similar so experiences, and so it's like, you know, we're all one in that way. So that is so cool. Love that. Do you want to share a collective reading with us?
Yes, I would love to, actually.
Wonderful.
Okay. Let me shuffle.
Everybody go out and go get your Soma Spirit Oracle deck from Sonia Fregoso.
Okay. So as I was shuffling, this card popped out.
Okay.
So I'm just going to choose this card.
Oh, I can see it now. And the card says rest.
Yes.
Is it a
so it's
fox?
It's a little fox. It's a little fox, and the card is, you know, basically giving you the energy, right, that you need, right? So a lot of the words that I came up with comes from the question, what do I need to know today? And so the universe, spirit, your ancestors, whoever it is that you speak to, right, is telling you that you need to rest, right? And I think that is actually a big message that we've all been trying to integrate into our life.
I agree.
And I know that for a lot of people, rest is really hard. But rest doesn't mean do nothing, right? Rest is more, it's like the prefix of restoration, right? So what are the things that restore your energy?
Yes.
Right? It could be a nap. It could be a walk, right? It could be connecting with people, or it could be isolating yourself for a little bit. Whatever restores your energy, right? You need to figure out what that is.
Exactly.
For yourself.
I love
Not everyone rests the same way.
Right. I believe that. And that's a beautiful message, because I'm sure to whoever hears this, it will resonate and hit you in whatever way that you feel called. And sometimes it's even thinking about going down that path of, what does rest look like for me? Or how can I redefine that? Because I don't even know what that is, you know?
Exactly.
In our modern fast-paced world where mothers do not have so much support and working long hours. I get a lot of that. How do I rest? How can I rest when I have XYZ, this to-do list? I'm a caregiver. I work long hours. You know, and it's like, that's hard. And then that's where the part comes in of like, well, what does rest, what could it mean and look like for me? Right? In this current season of life or circumstances, because it is hard.
And I think it's really important to just reframe the word rest, that it doesn't mean to do nothing, right? It's what restores your energy.
That was such a beautiful message. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so many women feel disconnected from intuition. It could be because of burnout, like we've been talking about, survival mode, trauma. Where do you suggest someone begin reconnecting with themselves?
Track the physical sensations in your body. In the morning, in the evening, you know, whenever you can, just track what you're feeling. Sensations only. No emotion words, no storytelling, just, oh, I'm feeling some tingliness right now. That's it. Just track your body. Start there.
I love that. Simple, but also being mindful and intentional of that, right? Yeah, that's such a good place to start. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember you on one of your posts when you were doing a giveaway for your deck, you were like, "What are you calling in?" And I was hoping I was going to be one of those winners, but that's okay. I'll buy my own deck. But anyway, you had asked, like, type in what you're calling in. I remember that. So, what are you currently calling in?
That's a good question. I think right now, because I want to spend more time with my son, I want to call in abundance, just the energy of abundance, the mindset of abundance, right? So that um, I don't overwhelm myself with like, oh, I don't have enough, so let me keep working, right? Let me keep doing this and not spend time with my son. I think I can spend time with my son, right? It's just my mindset that I feel needs to change. So I really want to call in more on that abundance mindset
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. Focusing more on that abundance mindset of I have that abundance of time. I have the time.
Yeah,
I
I have it.
have what I need, right?
I
And less of
do.
that scarcity definitely can help calm some of that and bring more of that abundance. I love that abundance for you.
Yeah. How
Beautiful.
about you? What are you calling
Right now, for me, it's trust. That's what resonates
Actually,
right
I think
now.
a lot of people actually put that intention down. Trust.
The trust. Yeah. I feel like just because right now I'm in a season of like trying to transition between different roles and work. And again, I mentioned, earlier on our separate call, homeschooling my son and then,
Uh-huh.
just how things are changing and shifting. Just always coming back to trusting what feels true and what feels right and aligned. And so trust is one I'm going to continue to stick with right now to
Yeah,
call it.
love that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sonia, thank you so much for being here and just for your time. Can you tell us how we can find you and work with you?
Yes. You can find me on Instagram at La Sonia Fregoso. So LA Sonia Fregoso. You can find me on my website at obsidianwoman.com. You can also find me on my podcast, the Slowdown Podcast. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes and then the deck. Like, I'm assuming they can get that on your
On my
website,
website.
right? Okay. On your website. Thank you so much, Sonia, for sharing your heart and your wisdom and the creation of the deck. It's super exciting. And this new season that you're in, motherhood, and you're seeing you and your son and just everything that you've created. You're working really hard, and it's beautiful to see the connection you're bringing to within your community. And that's beautiful to helping us remind ourselves to come back to ourselves and our intuition and through the body, through our physical body, because there's so many things that disconnect us from it. But this is the body we are being carried with each and every day. And so we've got to make some time
The only one we get.
to make friends and love and be kind to it and to others, obviously. But thank you so much. What I loved about the conversation too is that healing doesn't have to look a certain way, right? It's like reconnecting with ourselves can happen through the body, through spirituality, creativity, intuition, reflection, so many different ways, and giving ourselves that permission to explore and see what resonates and, going down that path. So thank you again for being here and for the beautiful work that you're doing and putting out into the world. If this conversation spoke to your heart today, everyone, I'd be so grateful if you took a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who may need it. Your support helps these healing conversations reach more women, more moms, and more people searching for connection, hope, and healing. And it would mean so much for me and for the podcast to help continue to grow. So don't forget to go check out Sonia and, go buy one of her decks, because that's what I'm going to be doing soon. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Take care and thank you. We'll see you on the next one.